Julie Formby, Office Manager at Top Flight Maintenance Incorporated, and E4 Area Director for Toastmasters.
Well, I'm really excited to be able to share about becoming an employer of choice because this is a passion that we have as Top Flight. And Top Flight is the company that my husband owns up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. It's a commercial maintenance company. And we do primarily janitorial work. That's our bread and butter. But we also do other types of work like snow removal and landscape maintenance and window washing, parking lot maintenance, that kind of thing. And just like everybody else in this job market, it's difficult to find good workers and it's difficult to keep them. So our goal has been to become an employer of choice. And we learned about this through some other companies that are doing it very well here in the United States, some national companies as well as some local companies. So what I'm going to be sharing is about 7 key strategies for creating a place where people love what they do and who they work with. And I'm going to be sharing about some of the things that these other companies have implemented and kind of what we're doing at Top Flight as well. We definitely have not arrived as an employer of choice, but we are a place where people recommend their friends for work. And that is a huge compliment to us when people say, I like working with you enough to recommend a friend and somebody that I care about. Facebook is a company that's known for being innovative and collaborative. And if you're an innovative, collaborative person, then that's going to attract you to want to work for Facebook. And then locally, we have New Belgian Brewing Company and Odell's. And they have been very intentional about creating an environment that draws the type of people who they want to work for them. So they'll offer all kinds of benefits, like a case of beer per week for employees who work there. They offer like anniversary incentives. So the New Belgium Brewing Company, they will give people a fat tire bicycle at their 1-year anniversary. And then in successive anniversaries after that, they are able to go on like 4-week sabbaticals. They offer a trip to Belgium at their 5-year anniversary.
Wow.
And the other 5-year employees who are celebrating, they go together. So you can imagine just what kind of culture and bonding that develops between people where they just love the people that they work with and it's their friends. It's not just going to work with their coworkers. So these are all ideas that we are trying to implement within our company in a way that's relevant to what we do. We don't make beer, so we can't offer people a case of beer. But
well, you could, but you don't make it there.
Yeah, at least not on the job.
Right.
So the first key strategy is just developing a company culture. And at Top Flight, for instance, we are very intentional about the values that we promote to our employees as well as to our customers. And first and foremost, we always say we're in the people business and people always come first. So what that means is if somebody has maybe a family member who dies or who is sick and they need some extra care, we tell people, go take care of your family. That is first and foremost. Yes, we have a business to run and it's important that we get our work done, but your family is first and foremost. And the reason that you work here is so that you can take care of your family. So we really try to put into practice what we preach by having people prioritize their families. That's just an example. But our core values relate to quality, respect, initiative, management, communication, and timeliness. And these are things that when we do performance reviews at 90 days after people have been employed and then annually after that, we do 360-degree performance reviews where we're asking not just people supervisors, but their peers and their customers, how is this person doing in each of these areas? Are they exemplifying top flight quality? Top flight means excellent or top notch. And in everything that we do, we endeavor to do the very best, to do excellent work. But it also incorporates things like professionalism and being conscientious, doing your work thoroughly and doing it well, being efficient. So If it's a 3-hour job, then keep it to 3 hours. If you do better, then we're looking into ways for how to reward people with that. And then leaving your mark. You know, you've been in the hotels and places where they fold the toilet paper in a little triangle on the roll. So we're always giving ideas like that to our employees, like how can the staff, when they come in the next morning, know that you've been there. We want you to leave your mark. We want it to be clean and beautiful and smell good. Our other values have to do with respect. And again, that's just how you treat people. You know, are you honest? Are you full of integrity? Do you cooperate as a team and work together? Or do you only want to do things your way? Do you want to talk about how stupid it is that we have this procedure or that process? Or do you have a better idea? Are you someone who's trying to make things better? Or are you just the negative Ned? And going along with that is being positive and encouraging. And originally, we did not have a policy on gossip. And I learned about this policy through Constant Contact also, which is a local business. And I was talking to some people there and I said, what do you like working about there? And they said, the culture is awesome. There is no tolerance for backbiting, gossip, anything like that. And it's created a very positive work environment for us. So we took that and we implemented that. And it's been very good because people focus just on being positive.
Nice.
Yeah. So let's see, more of our values initiative, just being a self-starter and creative. We don't want people necessarily to do things exactly the way that we tell them to. What we're looking for is results. And if you can find a better way to do it, then do it. And we want people to think outside the box. Like we're not the be all to end all for how to do something. And there are a lot of creative young people out there and they have a lot to bring to the table. And sometimes they're like, hey, what if we change the order of this? Or what if we use this tool instead to do this job? Or, you know, whatever the idea is, we're open to that. And then we have them test it as a team or as an individual and compare to the way that we train them to do it. And if it's better, then go for it. We love it. And then we also really focus on communication. And we tell people that doing the core competency of their job, so whether it's cleaning a building or clearing a parking lot of snow or mowing a lawn, that's just part of the job. And we've had some people who are really excellent and they're very good at what they do. They have a lot of experience and they have a lot of skill, but they do not get along with people. We've told people that is the other part of the job. You can do this excellent piece of the job over here, but if you can't get along with people and you're always causing trouble, you're not doing your job. So we work with people on that to teach them about appropriate communication methods and manners. And we have some processes that people have to go through if there's conflict for how to manage that and resolve it and do it in a productive way. And then, of course, listening skills. So everybody thinks that communication is just talking, but it's also listening and actively hearing what somebody else has to say and valuing that. Next, our core value is management. And this isn't just how you manage other people, because not everybody's a manager within our company. We do view everybody as a leader because they need to lead themselves and take initiative for themselves. So are they making good decisions about how to manage the physical resources of the company? Are they being wasteful? Are they managing human resources well? If they do manage people, are you putting the best person in the job for that particular role? And then also, are you a person who's developing yourself all of the time? Are you personally managing yourself to learn how to monitor and coordinate and instruct other people and do your job better? And then how do you do it? Time management. Are you just milking the clock and wasting time, or are you being efficient? And we keep pretty close track of that. And then the last value that we have is timeliness. And of course, that's the typical things of being on time to work and turning in expense reports and other things on time, but also being responsive to others. And it becomes really frustrating within a company if people are trying to get a response from somebody. They text them, they call them, and the person doesn't call back. And they're just waiting, and it can hold up progress on a job. So we value being prompt. And that also includes like giving the feedback on the 360-degree performance reviews that I talked about earlier. Are you, returning those on time so that the HR person can get her job done, and then whoever is being reviewed gets their review done on time so they can get their pay increase or whatever. They're not having to wait around on you. So all of that just ties back to, I think, probably in a nutshell, respect. And there's another company here in this area called EnviroPest, and I love what their core values are. It's that they exist to serve, and they're also very people focused there. And what they say is that their clients and coworkers are extensions of their family, and they should be treated as such. And I think that is just so beautiful and really encapsulates the value on people, that you treat everybody with respect. They also talk about practicing humility no matter what their role is, and living lives of integrity above all else. So you mess something up at work, just take responsibility and say, hey, it was me. I broke that piece of equipment and I was being careless. I mean, I thought it was okay, but I realize now that this is how I could have prevented it or whatever. That they take responsibility and they don't blame somebody else or put it off or not tell anybody about it. And then the next time we need to use that piece of equipment, it's broken. So we just try to encourage that communication within the company. And I like that EnviroPest has that specifically called out. Another piece of developing company culture for Top Flight is that we work hard and we play hard. So we have socials and things that are outside of company time and sometimes within company time. Like maybe we'll just pull out the barbecue during the week and say, hey, come on by at noon on Wednesday and, we're having tacos or we're having hamburgers or whatever, but let's just spend time together as a company. So that's the first piece, and it's kind of big. And I'm not saying that people have to implement all that. I'm just kind of giving ideas to start people thinking about this and how they can implement it within their company. The next key to becoming an employer of choice, I really believe, is appreciation and recognition. So I have a few quotes here that just really say how important it is for people to hear that they've done a good job. People will work for a living, but they'll die for recognition.
Yeah.
People work for money, but they go the extra mile for recognition, praise, and rewards. And you see that in your children. When you say, hey, good job, buddy, you can do it, that's great, go do it again. And the kid is so excited. And then when you have to ask them to clean their room, sometimes they're a little bit more willing to do that because they know that you think that they're great and you care about them. And the same is true with employees. The next quote is that a person who feels appreciated will always do more than what is expected. And we've seen that. The thing to be really aware of is that some people require a lot more than others. Everybody likes to be appreciated and recognized, but there's some people who maybe they just come out of childhood with like an emptier tank than everybody else, and they really need to hear it. And that's just something to be aware of. And we really try. Sometimes we fall short and we can't completely fill that tank for people. But as a general rule, we're very positive with people. We recognize people publicly. We have monthly safety meetings. There we read feedback that's been given. You can see in the bottom right-hand corner feedback that's given through a program called Snap Eval. And so we've developed just a culture of being positive and letting people know when you see them doing something well or doing something right, not just when they're doing something wrong. So people submit a Snap Eval and we read those Snap Evals within the safety meeting. And also, if you're a person who submitted a lot of Snap Evals and recognition, then you get your name in the pot for as many times as you've submitted a piece of recognition, and your name is drawn out and you can win a gift card or something like that. So it's encouraging that positive culture and people see that it's valued. We also try to recognize people uniquely. I got a really good idea at a recent conference that I attended, and the guy said, hey, when people are applying for a job, ask them, what is your favorite drink? And what is your favorite snack? and then they have it ready for them their very first day of work. And I thought, that's awesome. It was a specific piece of feedback for a Generation Z person, but to be quite honest, I think everybody would feel really happy to come to work and see something personalized for them on the very first day. I don't
Oh
think,
yeah, definitely.
yeah, I don't think it's just a Generation Z thing. So we do try to find out what really matters to people, you know, which restaurants do they like to eat at, what are their interests. You know, sometimes we'll give them concert tickets, or some people want just like a handwritten card, and we have customers who put them up on their bulletin board. And, you know, I'll go in and visit with them, and they have like a bulletin board covered in cards that we've sent them. And I can tell that that means a lot to that particular customer. So I just keep sending them. And then, as far as with employees, there's, you know, maybe some of them are money motivated, so they want a bonus, or maybe they get some paid time off for doing something excellent. You know, it could be 2 hours of paid time off or something like that, that you can reward in the form of like a card that they can turn in and, oh, what's the word? Redeem. I wanted to say revoke, but redeem. And then I also believe that the appreciation and recognition, it's important that it's just done sincerely, that you're not just saying the same thing over and over to everybody, but that it's really genuine, and you're not just doing it because you want your positive company culture, but you really mean it. People know if you're being sincere. Some companies even implement like time with the owner or time with key people. And if you're a person that is really motivated by relationships, then that's something that can go even further than maybe a bonus or a handwritten card. The next key to becoming an employer of choice is just really thinking about your benefits. And we are just now getting into this as a company. We've owned the company for 5 years. And little by little, we've been adding different benefits along the way. We couldn't do it all at once. And we have to make sure that we're not outpacing ourselves with how much we're paying people, and, you know, the total compensation package, because that affects your bottom line. So just a year ago, we added paid time off. Our employees get 5 days a year after they've been there for employed for 1 year. And I know different companies work it in different ways. One idea that I really liked that people may want to think about is that they give the paid time off right up front when somebody starts with the company, but then in order to incent them to stay with the company, they tell them that if they quit before the first year is up, then that paid time off will be deducted from their paycheck. So I really believe that that's like giving the reward right up front and saying, we trust you and we believe that you're going to be with us. But if not, you know, then it'll be deducted at the end. But I kind of like that idea. We've always offered healthcare to our employees, but honestly, for a small business, it's so expensive. And for people doing janitorial work, I mean, our people make on average like $12 to $15 an hour for just a standard worker. And insurance can run, you know, like $400 or more just for an individual. And the piece that we're able to cover for them, we put in $150 as an employer. The balance is just makes it inaccessible for our employees to be able to cover the other piece. So we've looked at other options and we've been creative with that. Originally, we were offering a health sharing plan, and that was actually very affordable. But what we found is that people have to come up with the money to pay their medical expenses up front, and then they're reimbursed. And for the level of pay that our workers receive, it was just too much for them. Even if we were covering $150 of their premium, which was only left like $50 to $100 for them to cover for themselves, it was still too much for them to cover those expenses up front. And then we had a personal issue. My daughter was in a car accident, and we found that it was very, very, very hard to collect on that. And we just decided there is no way that we can do this to our employees. This would be too hard on them. So what we've gone to is an ERISA plan. And ERISA has to do with oh, I should have put in there what the acronym is. It has something to do with retirement. That's what the R is. It's something retirement savings account. But there's two buckets of funding on a premium for ERISA plans. There's a fixed cost and there's a claims funding bucket. And if you go throughout the entire year and you don't use all of your claims funding bucket, then as an employer, you get a lump sum refund that you can apply as a benefit the following year for your employees. So I think the statistic is that something like only 20% of insurance monies are used every single year. So imagine if you get an 80% refund on that claims funding bucket, and then you can take that and either make that like a health savings account for your employees, or you can reduce their premiums. And it could end up being that their premiums are actually free the following year if all the claims funding isn't used. So this is what we are doing now and experimenting with, and finding that it's much more effective. It works more like insurance, and people just pay co-pays when they go in, and it's very affordable. And there are some options for ERISA plans. You can ask me about the plan that we ended up choosing, and I'd be happy to tell you about it and put you in touch with the person that we use for that. So we have paid time off for compensation, the total compensation package, and healthcare, and then also a 401k matching plan. So benefits, benefits, benefits. If you can do it, it's awesome. We do 100% match from 1 to 3%, and then a 50% match from 3 to 5%. If you offer flexible work schedules, advertise that when you're looking to hire people. That is a benefit, whether people recognize it or not. So with janitorial cleaning, people can do it between the close of business to the open of business. And if the team decides, we want to go in at 10 o'clock at night or midnight and do our work because we want to go out and party first, or maybe we have school events with our kids and we want to work our job around our family, then they can do that. That's definitely a benefit, and people should advertise that. And then my dream is to offer childcare, and I think this is a huge pain point for a lot of small employers is, you run a lean staff and you have someone who calls in sick, it affects the whole crew. But imagine if you could take sick kids in and you took care of the sick kids. You had a childcare program that took care of that and they didn't have to call in. My dream is to offer like a Montessori school that is, where we're not only an employer of choice, but where it's a school of choice for people within our community. And then the people in the community can pay the premium prices for the childcare and, get an excellent education for these little children and know that they're being taken care of. But then that would subsidize what our employees pay, and we could return that as a benefit, not just convenience, but lower price childcare than what they would pay someplace else. Compensation, that's the other piece. We talked about the total comp package, but you can see here on this slide just how much it costs. For us, it's 75 cents an hour to give people 5 days of paid time off. So that's like a 75-cent an hour raise. And if you do a healthcare contribution like we do, there's $1 an hour. A 401k would be, 60 to 75 cents an hour. So people have to really understand that when you're offering them benefits, it's on top of what they're getting paid, and they have to see that as a benefit and not just always be looking at the bottom line and saying, this is what I have to bring home. If they have to pay for healthcare expenses themselves and they don't get an insurance benefit, then they really are making less. So it's important to just market that for yourself as an employer. Another thing is just the various rewards that you can offer to employers. And we talked a little bit about, or to employees, and we talked a little bit about that before. It's kind of more of the same. Something that we're looking at implementing in the next few years is gain sharing. So as our employees become more and more efficient and they cut down on the number of hours that they're in a building cleaning, then instead of us keeping all the profit, then we'll share a portion of that with them. And other companies that have implemented gain sharing have found that, so maybe they're sharing 10% of that increased efficiency with the employees. Well, the employees become like so competitive with themselves and within the team that they become even more and more efficient. And so we're excited to experiment with this and try this out. And I think it gives people a huge sense of control within their job, and they realize, you know, I can work fewer hours and make the same amount of money by working harder. And everybody loves that. And of course, we'll check the quality and make sure that the quality is up, and that's part of the deal. They can't just clean faster. It has to be done well. If people want to know how to be competitive within their type of work that they offer, there are a couple of resources. One is called ONET and the other is Pay Scales. So you can go in and input the specifics about the jobs that you offer, and they'll tell you what the pay range and the pay scale is for your area of the country. It varies. Like Cheyenne is even very different from Colorado just because of the cost of living. The fifth strategy for becoming an employer of choice is employee development. So our philosophy with our employees is we want you to be a better person when you leave than when you came to us. A lot of our workers are, you know, it's blue collar, low skill labor. And some people are really good at what they do within, you know, landscaping and janitorial work, but it's not like a white collar office job. And sometimes these people don't have the skills to manage money very well. Sometimes they've struggled in life with marriage and family issues. And what we can offer to them is personal enrichment. We offer leadership training to all of our employees who want to participate. And what they learn in there is they learn how to communicate. They learn how to listen. They learn how to manage conflict and resolve it. They learn how to build a team and work together. They learn how to give feedback, which is a super important skill if they want to move up and become leaders themselves. So we work through this with them, and what we tell them is, you know, you may have a goal that you want to be a nurse or a dental hygienist someday. Well, we can't train you to do that. We can't give you the education for that. But the skills that you learn here, you can take and translate. If you're a good communicator here, then you're going to be a good communicator in your new job, and every employer wants that. So, you know, as you participate in this, you become more and more valuable as a person to any employer, and we want to see you be able to succeed in life. And we want to know what your dreams are, and we want to help you get there. Like, we're not possessive with our employees. We want people to really prosper and do what they were made to do in life. And if they have a specific dream, then we want to help them get there. But this is the framework that we can do it with. There's also opportunities for specialized training and certifications within every job. So if you can offer those to your employees who demonstrate the aptitude for that, then that is going to help them not only be a better employee for you, but it's going to help them in whatever job they go on to do in the future. And I think sometimes employers think, well, why would I be investing in somebody who's going to leave? I'll tell you what, people who know that you care about them and they know that you love them as a person and that they're valuable as a person, and they see that by the way that you treat them and how you invest in them, they become so loyal. Since we started, or since we took over the company, we've reduced our turnover rate. It's like gone through the floor. I think we have it's less than 2% right now. So people know that we love them, and they often say, this feels like a family, and this is the best place that I've ever worked, and I know that you guys really care about me. So that's just, I think, says a lot for really trying to develop a company culture and being focused on being an employer of choice. I got a little bit out of order here, but job training is super important. People have to know when they come to work what you expect of them and how they're supposed to do it, and it needs to be shown in a clear, concise way. We have procedures written out for everything. We also have video training that people do before they even start the job, and then they get hands-on training. And of course, different leaders of different teams have their own special way of doing things that varies somewhat, but we still have a top flight way of doing things, and we have a top flight core value of quality. This is the result that we need to have. So be sure to train people and don't just turn them loose and let them feel like they're failing and then become frustrated. That's not gonna that's not gonna retain people, and it's expensive not to retain people. Let me
Point.
yes?
Good point.
Yeah, it's super expensive. Um, oh, a little bit more on personal enrichment. I talked about how we have a lot of people with, financial management issues. Some employers I've heard actually tell their employees, if you get certified through Financial Peace University, then we'll reimburse you. And I love that idea. You can also run like your own financial literacy courses within your own business. And I received a curriculum from a friend who used to do this with his business. I'd be happy to send to anybody. So you can give people my contact information if you want, Jim.
Okay.
Pass that on. The next key is people knowing that there's a career path that they can move up, that there's upward mobility. So we lay out for people, for janitorial workers, you start off as a worker, then you can become a lead, then you can become the janitorial supervisor, and after that you can take over my job and I'll just go to Aruba or something. But we really always want to be focused on training our replacement. It is not encouraged to just hoard information and try to be powerful in that way, because everybody loses. If you end up getting sick and you can't be there one night and you've hoarded all that information, then your team is not going to perform very well, and ultimately it reflects on you because you haven't shared that information. So be telling people how they can move up and what the specific skills are that are required. And again, this circles back into the whole leadership training that we do with each and every person who wants to participate in that, is they understand this is what a leader does. They listen, they give feedback, they resolve conflict, they plan and implement effectively, and they delegate. They don't try to do it all themselves. So all of those skills are things that we work on with people, and it helps elevate them within the company. All right, number 7. This is the very last strategy, which is employee engagement. And more, this is becoming super important, especially with Generation Z. People want to know that they're a part of a community, and it's not just a part of the community within your company, but they want to know that they're a part of a bigger community. So what do you do within your community within your city? Do you get involved with homeless? One of the things that we've talked about, we haven't implemented yet, I wish we could say that we have, is just making like these little care packages for homeless people that have, chapstick, gloves, a hat, socks, maybe like a little gift card where they can go get a breakfast sandwich and a coffee or something. And then of course we would put the Top Flight business card in there so people would know. But have everybody work together within the company to assemble these packages, put them in their trucks, and then when they're out doing landscape work or snow removal work and they see someone standing in the corner, they feel like they can really help, and it's in a tangible way without giving somebody money and having them be able to misuse it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And then there are some companies that actually think even bigger, and they will take their employees to go serve in other countries. And when I heard this, I was like blown away that there's companies that do this. But again, it comes back to their value. And if you're like EnviroPest, where the value is serving people, then you're actually serving people. You're not just talking about it. And companies that do this, what they've talked about is how incredible this is, because their employees get to see how other people live in other countries, and they realize, wow, I have it way better off. But they also end up feeling like I'm a part of something bigger and I'm really making a difference in the world. So someday maybe Top Flight will get there. Like, that's my heart, and I would love to be there someday, but we'll see. It's just step by step. So these are all ideas, and different companies that are listening to this presentation are probably in different places. There may be some people who are way past this and you could like teach me. So like I said, Jim will give you my email. Let me know what you do, because I want to learn from you and just become better and better. But then you may be a company that you just acquired a company, or you just started a company, or maybe you're starting to rethink things aren't working so well and we need to tweak things a little bit. So hopefully these are ideas that'll help people. Within the company, what we do to engage people is we have a private Facebook group. And in there, we do recognition, we have announcements, we have personal enrichment things where we share about leadership. So everybody can't attend the leadership classes, but they can see on Facebook what we're talking about. So we share about that and people can learn about it that way. We reinforce what our company culture is. We've been doing it long enough that we just kind of repeat the same things over and over, probably quarterly, and people need to be reminded that this is what we're about. But people have to hear things frequently in order for it to get in there. And it's not every week that we're repeating the same thing, so it's not boring, but it's about quarterly, and people are like, oh yeah, I remember now. Oh yeah, I should be turning in that performance review because I'm not being responsive by waiting on this. It just gives them a little reminder. And then we also do an employee newsletter that we send out with our paychecks and pay stubs. And again, that just, we'll introduce new people. Maybe we have like a little tidbit about somebody, like about their background and, what they want to do in life outside of Top Flight, maybe what their hobbies are, how many kids they have, where people are just really getting to know each other as a community. And the same types of things are included on Apple TVs. People can use Amazon Fires as well. But it's just like a rotating slideshow that we have in our shop where our workers come in, and we have one in our office also. And it just like circulates these announcements and information about what's going on within the company. But it keeps people engaged and they know that we're thinking about them, and there's new information and recognition out there, and they see that we're really putting into practice what we've said is a value. And then, of course, like company-wide socials and events, we have a company picnic that we do once a year. And recently we got feedback that people would like to do things more often as families. Originally, we were trying to plan things for our cruise. And remember the childcare thing I was talking about always being a problem? That's even a problem with social life. So they said, let's do things as families. So we're going to plan some things like going ice skating or going bowling and getting together as families. And to me, that was a huge compliment that people were saying, we want to spend time outside of work with the people that we work with, and we feel comfortable enough to bring our families. I feel like we've been successful in achieving that company culture that we want, which is that people love where they work and they love who they work with. So those are my 7 tips for becoming an employer of choice. And the last slide is just a summary of that with cute little emojis.
Nice. That was a great presentation. I learned a lot of things in there. It sounds like to me that if you're not already an employer of choice, you said you're in the Cheyenne area with Top Flight, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you're well on your way to becoming one from what you're explaining that you're already doing there and what you want to do in the future. It sounds to me like you're definitely on the way, if not there already,
I hope so. I mean, our employees definitely recommend their friends to come work for us.
Good.
And I didn't mention, like, we do referral bonuses. So we should probably increase it, but what we do right now is $25 if we hire the friend that you recommend, and then $50 if they're still with us 6 months later.
Okay. Well, that brings up the question, and you can click out of your presentation there if you want to, so it'll kind of go back to just you and I on the screen.
Okay. There we
There,
go.
perfect. Yes. So that brings up the question: how hard is it to find good employees in the area where Top Flight is?
It's been really hard. We have a completely different employment market up in Wyoming than we do in Colorado. And frequently we get people who apply who change jobs about every 6 weeks, it seems like.
Mm-hmm.
And when we post a job, we do it on both Facebook as well as Indeed.
I was taking a few notes during your presentation here. Let me see what I got here. In the appreciation and recognition category, the thing that kind of jumped out at me was the fact that you guys are letting your employees do snap revals. Now, is that like people recognizing other employees? Like one of your employee will recognize another employee and
Yeah.
do something formally to recognize them that way?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah, so it could be like, hey, Desiree, I really appreciate you filling in for me last minute. That shows, and they attach it to the top flight value. That shows like teamwork. I really appreciate that. Or it could be um, maybe there was something that went wrong at one of the accounts one night, and the employee immediately got a hold of their supervisor, and the supervisor was able to get a hold of the owner and deal with the situation before it got even bigger. Like they showed common sense or whatever. And there's just a commendation of that instead of only communicating when somebody needs to fix something.
Okay.
Just
Yeah.
really developing that positive environment, and people like it. And when they receive one of these and they're commended, their face just lights up.
Well, Julie, it's been great getting to know you and your business and what you guys are doing at Top Flight on your way to becoming an employer of choice in the Cheyenne area. I want to thank you again for participating in the Business Summit. It
Thank
was fun, informative, and I think employers can pick up some great tips from rewatching that presentation. So it'll be
I
interesting to
hope
see what
so.
kind of comments and questions we get. I'd also like to thank all of you who are attending the summit or tuning in later to watch the summit recordings. And of course, I encourage you to leave your questions and comments for Julie in the chat. And hopefully we'll see you again in the rest of the interviews taking place in this NOCO 2020 Visions Local Business Summit. And lastly, I'd like to ask, please share this summit with anybody you think might be interested so that they can benefit from our speakers' expertise. You will find a share link in the chat that makes it easy to share. So for now, I think we are over and out until the next interview. Take care, Julie, and thanks again.
Thanks for having me, Jim.
You bet.